Happy December. It is time to talk December TBR. I'm Olivia. This is AV Club where I talk about horror, litfic, weird books, whatever I want to talk about. So glad you're here. Let's dive into the books because there's a lot to talk about. As expected, this end of the year TBR is a little bit all over the place. We have spooky Christmas horror, we have new horror releases, we have reading that is inspired by a beloved horror booktuber, and also there's just a lot of possibilities, a lot of like lit fic cozy possibilities that we'll talk about at the end, and I want you to help me decide what I should prioritize for the end of the year. But first things first, it is Christmas, so we have to have an advent calendar. This is my 2019 short story advent calendar, which was something that was published by Hingsten Olsen, which is a Canadian publisher, I believe. And I believe that they do not do these anymore. And yes, it's from 2019, but guess what? They still exist. This is life whenever whenever you have physical media. You don't have to rush into things. And the thing was, whenever I did start this in 2019, is that I was reading one of these over the phone to my partner Daniel whenever we lived apart, but he was coming to visit me for Christmas. So I read one every day until it was like his time to come travel, and I didn't read him to him over the phone anymore whenever he was there, and we had so little time together back then that really it was something that fell to the wayside. So I've read, like, the first 5 or so of these, I think. I'll show you what they look like. Let's see. So here's 2, and then you would open there's, like, a seal and everything, like it's an advent calendar, and there's a surprise about what your short story is, and they're not Christmas-themed short stories. They are all just, like, shorty little things, and, you get a taste of a author's writing, and it mentions, like, what else they have written in the back of these, like, in the little bio, and I did find some authors that I ended up reading full-length work by after reading them in the short story advent calendar. So I would like to get back to it this year, even though it was a fail before. I guess I need to start it from scratch. Like, I can reread the short stories and just be in the habit of doing it. Should I talk about them every day? Should I make a advent calendar of videos to talk about these short stories every day? Uh, Doubtful. We'll see. We will see. I'm interested in the idea of doing shorts. That's a whole nother idea, not to talk about right now on the TBR. And then something I will absolutely be reading is William Gibson's Neuromancer, and this is our next GG Reread pick for No Cartridge, the podcast that I co-host that is about video games primarily, but we do a series on it that is called GG No Reread, which is pairing together a video game and a book to talk about them in conversation. Last Our live show will be the week that this is posted. It'll be the first week of December, which is about House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski and What Remains of Edith Finch. So if you've read House of Leaves or are interested in that, check out the live show. We would love to have you there. And if you're not familiar with the game, if you haven't played it, it's something that you can watch the playthrough of in like an hour and a half on YouTube. It is so cool, so interesting, a lot of text to unpack. So yeah, even if you're not a video game player, I think that you will find it very narratively interesting. And so we will be talking about that. But Neuromancer, we will be talking about in conjunction with Neuromancer, the MS-DOS game, which I believe came out in the early 90s. This is from 1984. The game, though, is somehow a different story than the book. Or maybe they were written in conjunction. I don't remember exactly, but it is like William Gibson's blessed version of a video game, I believe, and that they wrote them to be kind of companions. So I think it will be a really interesting episode. I love learning about the history of weird games like that. And I have no experience with MS-DOS games, so it will be a learning experience for everyone. But I will definitely be reading Neuromancer, and I'm excited to get to this. I want to get to more sci-fi classics in the next year. I think that's gonna be one of the things I prioritize in my 26 and 26 type of reading video. And then I won't talk about these too much because I'm hoping to do a reading vlog that is reading inspired by a booktuber that I admire very much, a horror booktuber. And if you have watched her videos, then you can probably guess who these are inspired by. But I don't want to talk about it just yet, just in case I don't do it this month. You know what I mean? But a point horror, Diane Ho's The Fever, which is I was never a point horror reader. Like I read Goosebumps growing up, but I do love these covers. I love the idea of just like a short little weird story. I think they're YA teen themed, which was a much different thing whenever these were published, but they are published by Scholastic, which makes me think that they are for high schoolers, or middle grade, high school readers, whatever. But this is about a girl who sees something happen whenever she has a delirious fever in the middle of the night, and she has to figure out if it really happened, what was going on, etc. I think that sounds fun. Another Another one by Diane Ho is Nightmare Hall, The Roommate. Nightmare Hall is a series set at a college, but again, I believe kind of a YA series. I love this, like, step back cover. So beautiful. Found this at the op shop, was so excited. I just the colors, it was just a different time for book design. This is about 4 roommates. One of them's weird. I think that's gonna be fun too. And then the thing that prompted me to want to make that type of video inspired by another booktuber, because I've never made a video like that before, but I love the idea of it. If I can figure out how to vlog successfully, then maybe there will be more of them. But Charlie Jacobs' This Symbiotic Fascination, I think it is a weird title. I think it's a weird cover, and I think it's going to be a really weird book. I think this is supposed to be hardcore, disturbing, extreme horror. It's about a lonely woman and a man who is possessed by 3 animal spirits, who is a murderer, and he's trying to not let the spirits take over, or he will cease to be human. It sounds weird. I think it'll be really interesting, but it is something that is long and not my usual reading enough where I was like, you know what, let me see if I can seam a vlog around it and really put pressure on myself to have a timeline of when to finish this in, because it sounds really interesting. But yeah, I don't normally read anything extreme horror adjacent, so we'll see how it goes. But I trust this booktuber's taste implicitly, so I think it'll be good. Next, we'll talk about the audiobooks and ebooks that I'm planning on reading. The first one being The Man with No Shadow, which is the first in the series called How to Survive Camping, and this is written by Bonnie Quinn. I am pressured to read this now because I got approved for an arc of the second book, not knowing that it was a series, and I was like, okay, well, let me get to it. But it's rated really well compared to Welcome to Night Vale, which I think is fun. Campy, cozy horror novel, set at a campground. I think this whole series follows the campground manager, Kate, as she's trying to protect the campers, but there's urban legends or a series of, I think it's kind of goosebumpsy, uh, or Are You Afraid of the Darky, where it has kind of like a monster of the week, this series, at this campground, and I think a campground is a really fun setting for a horror novel, much less a horror series. I would love to love a series. I wish I had more books where I could look forward to another one coming out, but I'm just not a series reader, really. On audiobook, I have Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. This was one that was highly recommended by Kayla of Books and Lala. Knock Knock Open Wide weaves horror and Celtic myth into a terrifying, heartbreaking supernatural tale of fractured family bonds, the secrets we carry, and the veiled forces that guide Irish life. Driving home late one night, Atane Larkin finds a corpse on a pitch black country road deep in the Irish countryside. She takes the corpse to a remote farmhouse. So begins a night of unspeakable horror that will take her to the very brink of sanity. She'll never speak of it again. Uh, 2 decades later, something to do with horror in a children's TV show, which kind of reminds me of Mr. Magic, which I wanted more from. So I hope that Knock Knock Open Wide gives me something that Mr. Magic didn't. A new horror release, The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. I've not yet read anything by Christina Henry, but this one sounds really good. A woman must confront the evil that has been terrorizing her streets since she was a child in this gripping haunted house novel, perfect for fans of The Last House on Needless Street and Tell Me I'm Worthless, both books which I highly enjoyed. On an otherwise ordinary street in Chicago, there's a house, an abandoned house where once upon a time terrible things happened. The children who live on this block are told by their parents to stay away from that house, but of course, children don't listen. Children think it's fun to be scared to dare each other to go inside. Jessie Campanelli did what many older sisters do and dared her little brother Paul, but unlike all the other kids who went inside that abandoned house, Paul didn't return. His two friends, Jake and Richie, said that the house ate Paul. Of course, adults didn't believe that. Adults never believe what kids say. They thought someone kidnapped Paul or otherwise hurt him. Anyway, this disappearance broke up their family. What was going on with this house? That kind of reminds me of the introduction to American Horror Story Murder House, which was, I, I guess, actually, I think I did like Asylum more, but, back when American Horror Story was good. Was it good or was I just younger and there wasn't any other horror TV shows? That's a question for the ages. I will not be revisiting those seasons, I don't believe, so we'll never know. Another new horror release, Moan, which is a new Junji Ito story collection. There's really no synopsis for this because it's one of his short story collections, so as soon as I read something, that would be, like, kind of the gist of the story. Flowers blooming in the shape of eyeballs. Ooh, I love that. So, yeah, I'm always ready to read a Junji Ito short story collection. I think that's maybe where he's at his best. And then, ooh, this was part of my reading list for the booktubers taste. And if you know this booktuber, then I think this might even more give it away who I'm inspired by. But Catherine the Ghost by Kathy Koja. And this is going to be a Wuthering Heights retelling where it's told by Kathy and her mother, Catherine Linton, and alternating viewpoints, some sort of weird Wuthering Heights retelling. I think that sounds fun. Where do you stand on this Wuthering Heights adaptation kind of drama? I'm very interested to see it. I don't really care if things are faithful retellings, especially something like Wuthering Heights. Like, there's nothing that no way you could adapt Wuthering Heights where it would negatively impact its legacy. Like, it could just be vaguely inspired by, and if it's a good movie, then, like, that's fine with me. I where I worry more about adaptations where I'm like, "Okay, this was its one shot to get some, like, more popularity or something like that. Wuthering Heights is gonna be fine." So I'm excited to see what it is, and I'm very excited about the Charlie XCX, soundtrack. And then we have our spooky Christmas reading. I should have started with this because all of these books, all of the ones that I read, will be going towards my holiday hell readathon, watchathon tracking. If you're not aware, Holiday Hell is an event run by Kelsi of Slime and Slashers. The persistent, the strong Kelsi, who has somehow able to, like, host all of these events. They must be so exhausting. But I loved Halloween-a-thon. I'm so excited for Holiday Hell as well. But there's prompts, different prompts, and the way I will be doing it is rather than planning on either being Team Krampus or Team Santa, that I'm just gonna let the chips fall where they may, see where the prompts if I'm falling on the naughty or nice scale. I think that that will be more fun to find out. Um, I I have an inkling of where I might might fall this December, especially because I have these holiday horrors to read. Christmas and Other Horrors, A Winter Solstice Anthology by Ellen Datlow. This one sounds so good because there's so many authors that I love in here. It features Tanina Reeve Dew, Stephen Graham Jones, Christopher Golden, Alma Katsu, Josh Mallerman, Garth Nix, Karen Warren. We got some Australian representation in this anthology. I think a holiday anthology is going to be just perfect. Ghouls, hauntings, visitations, eerie Austrian and Welsh folklore, ravenous golems, uncanny neighbors, and unwelcome visitors. I think this will be fun. My only worry is I was able to get this through the library on audiobook, and that's not my ideal way to read an anthology or a short story collection. Um, but that's what we were able to get from the library. So, for Gathered on Christmas Eve, kind of also a Christmassy horror anthology because it's from four of the top creators in comics: Eric Powell, Mike Mignola, Becky Cloonan, and James Heron. And it's supposed to be in the line of thinking of Victorian tradition of ghost stories on Christmas Eve. So this is also going to be different horror stories inspired by Christmas. I'm very excited to read this. And then the last one I really plan on reading before we get to my list of possibilities is Candy Cane Kills by Brian McAuley. This one sounds so fun. It's about a legendary killer named Candy Cane who is slashing through the snow with a very long naughty list. Um, Christmas and horror really, I think, go together for me. It's like so campy. I like that kind of stuff. And I like that it's going to be like snowy weather because I don't know if you can tell, but it's really hot here and sweating. I will be sweating even more come Christmas. So I I need this, y'all. I need to be reading Christmassy things. And I'm just in such a horror mood. Although I will get to my list of possibilities now. I've been reading so much horror that I feel like I have like let some things slip. Like I just don't have time to read everything that I want to read. And so I need your help in deciding what to prioritize. Maybe it might be that these are the physical reads for December because I do have a lot of like ebooks and audiobooks on my TBR as well. But I'd like to at least get to one more of these. So here's my options. I could go cozy, Christmas, especially like between Christmas and New Year's. Maybe you don't feel like doing much. Maybe your brain's not working very well and you want something cozy like before the coffee gets cold. All I really know about this is that it's like a cozy time travel, uh, warm, thoughtful, emotional read and short. Diary of a Tuscan Bookshop by Alba Donati. I think this cover is beautiful. I actually have quite a few books about bookshops now. So I was thinking, should I just wait and read them all together? Again, I have these grand plans that I learn how to make compelling vlogs. So maybe that's what happens, that I do that, that I am capable of that. And I do a bookshop book vlog. Oh gosh, I'm kind of leaning towards this one. Elemental P by Mark Dunn, a novel in letters. This was one that I also found out through Books and Lala. And the gist of this is that there's this island, and on this little island in South Carolina, there's a statue that has the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, the panagram. And that slowly what happens is as each letter falls off of this old statue's plaque, that they have to eliminate that letter from the alphabet or from their alphabet, from the words that they use, which sounds so interesting. And it does change how they talk and how the book is written throughout it. I just think that sounds so fun. I love kind of a word gamey linguistics fun moment. This seems like a good holiday time read because of the topic. I just think that that one will greatly amuse me, but also I need to get to more Australian lit fic this year, and Catherine Bourbon's Cure is kind of calling my name, and I love this cover design. I loved her book Body Friend, which must have come out last year. I must have read it for the Stella Longlist last year, which was about chronic illness, chronic pain, and I believe this one is as well. It's about a mother and daughter experiencing chronic illness. One of them has a blog that where she writes about it. They end up both being in Italy and like looking for this person that says that they have a cure for their disease or their pain. Um, Yeah, this just came out this year, so I would like to get to keep more up to date with lit fic reads, especially women's books, so that whenever the Stella Prize long list comes out, I don't feel like I have so much catching up to do, as I have the past couple of years. So, um, yeah, please give me your vote down in the comments. Which one do you think I should prioritize reading? And I believe that's quite enough books to plan on reading in December with everything else going on. There's not quite so much going on in Australia, at least where I'm living for Christmas as I had back in Louisiana. Christmas was such a season there, but there's always like some event to go to, some business, some restaurant hosting a special fun little night. I think people are too hot and sweaty to do that here. Like it's just not romantic. It's not romantic. Just not a very romantic holiday here because instead of like mittens and beanies and coats and scarves, hot cocoa, instead you have like tank tops and flip-flops and sunburn and mosquitoes. So that's why I needed this holiday hell readathon. It could not have come at a more perfect time in my life for me to like really delve into these online book communities because if I've never said it before, that is what I want here more than anything is to have community because I have no one else to talk about books with. This is it. So thank you so much for being here because it means the world to me that I get to talk to people about books, honestly, because otherwise I would just be sitting by myself doing it. So let me know what you're reading in December. What are you looking forward to? Have you read any of these books? Who's your guest on the booktuber that I'm reading like this month? And I will talk to you again so soon. Bye.